to Latin America, a subject on which you have substantial expertise, I do want to discuss a little bit about Israel, the stories of torture coming out of Israel, and the efforts by the Knesset to immunize the torturers, and the efforts by radical right-wingers to break into jails while the police looked the other way to let the torturers out, and a statement by the Attorney General that they shouldn't be prosecuted, makes me wonder if, from your understanding of Israeli culture, is there so much torture? Is it so commonplace? Have the Palestinians been so dehumanized that all of these things which I've just touched on seek to shock the Israeli conscience?
I think that is exactly the case, what you've just described. And it's not just the dehumanization of Palestinians and the rabid bloodlust that exists within Israeli society that's driving this. It's also something that I think we should be clear about is the concept of Jewish supremacy that really is behind the Israeli state. When you have the rabbi, the state rabbi in the military saying it's okay for Israeli soldiers to rape non-Jews, I don't know what clearer demonstration of the Zionist mentality you could really get. These are people that do not view other human beings as human beings. And that is actually the basis for their state as well, this so-called Jewish state. It's not about having a place of safety for Jews as they claim. It's actually about defining other human beings as less than human and not deserving of rights. I can't imagine any other society on earth where, for all their whatever faults or difficulties other countries and other groups of people face, where a mass movement calling for the right to rape could actually take root. And that's what we see in Israel. That's why, on top of the outside pressure that Israel is facing right now from various states that it's been aggressive with over the years, whether that's Lebanon, Syria, Iran. I mean, Israel's been constantly stoking its neighbors. In addition to that pressure, Israel internally risks crumbling on itself. I think if Netanyahu were out of the picture, or this war, this external existential threat wasn't something that the Israelis were grappling with right now, that they would actually be left to face themselves, left to face each other. And in that case, their society might fall apart even more rapidly than it already is. And that's, again, why I think years from now, we might look back at October 7th as the true beginning of the end of Israel.
When Joe Biden says Israel has a right to defend itself, when Prime Minister Netanyahu says that amongst a rapturous, the only way to describe it, applause and adulation by a Congress he's bought and paid for, are they defending a liberal democracy, or are they defending an authoritarian state?
It's beyond an authoritarian state. It's a racial project, or according to them, they see the Jewish people as a race that are superior to everyone else. It is a Jewish supremacist state that, we've been denying that for years here in the United States, especially as Zionist foundations and money have made a bid to influence Christians and make Christians actually in the US believe that they're somehow included in that vision of Jewish supremacy, when in reality they're not. And I think that's something that Americans should really wake up to. There was that fabulous interview a few months ago that Tucker Carlson did with a priest in Bethlehem. And I think that was a beginning, hopefully, of Americans learning about the fact that they might like our money, our tax dollars, and they might like our soldiers to come to the Middle East and fight and die for them. But ultimately, the people running the Israeli state don't even see us as human beings. They see us as, well, what exactly I just described, a country that can supply endless bodies and tax dollars in their defense. And meanwhile, you have people in the Israeli government that are pushing toward an actual messianic end times vision of Judaism. That's real. That's powerful in the Israeli state. And Netanyahu, in many ways, is the figure keeping those more radical forces at bay. So again, it just spells disaster for Israel going forward.
Haven't those more radical forces more or less been unleashed in the West Bank?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the Israeli state actually depends on these forces to keep their project going, because secular Israelis aren't going to be as dedicated to expanding Israel's borders or continuing aggression with its neighbors. Some of those people might actually want peace because they would like to stay in Israel, and they see this radical segment as driving not only confrontations in the West Bank but with the region more broadly. And yet, Israel's survival is completely dependent on its expansion. It's kind of just a moment in history, I think, where everything is being revealed as it is, and Israel is being revealed as a force that can only move the world in one direction. And if they have their